Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we have a new jobs report. There's been all this talk about economic uncertainty, Donald Trump's trade war, a lot of people saying, oh, we would have like a Black Monday, whatever. And it seems like the stock market, it's still going down, but is it kind of possibly turning a corner? It does seem as if the bleeding is slowing down. So that's a good sign in the stock market. But on top of that, the jobs report that we saw under Donald Trump for the previous month of March was very solid. Not only did they beat expectations by 88,000, which is basically a turn of a 180 degrees from what we saw over the past 4 years, where they would miss the expectations and their own Department of Labor found out that the jobs numbers were even then being artificially inflated. But you look at this, 228,000 new jobs, 459,000 increase in full-time workers too, which is arguably more important. So a lot of people, go from working part-time to working full-time. That means that they're going to have more of a stable income. You also see 209,000 of an increase in private employment. So that's another good sign. You're not just adding government jobs. In fact, you're losing government jobs. You see a 4,000 decline in federal government jobs, but the labor force increasing by 232,000, a 24,000 increase in retail trade jobs, 23,000 increase in transportation and warehousing, 13,000 in construction. All of that is very solid. You're seeing manufacturing growth. You're seeing more jobs for native-born Americans, not just these non-citizens, many of which are illegal aliens. So when you look at this, the jobs numbers are getting better. And the economy in many metrics is getting better. You see certain prices dipping. And Donald Trump has only been president for 2.5 months. Now, it is true that a lot of people are saying that there's going to be uncertainty about how the trade policy is going to affect Donald Trump's approval, his administration. But if you look at this, there's a new poll that was taken post-tariffs, and Donald Trump's approval rating went up from 49% to 53%. And this is something that is true. Democrats have deluded themselves into believing that Donald Trump's actions are going to be the end of his presidency because he's doing exactly what he promised. And some people are going to be skeptical if this, broad tariff approach across the board is going to work. A lot of it is a negotiation tactic, but the bottom line is Trump views the economy as broken because it is. The system is broken, and Americans agree with that, even if it means they have to take on some short-term increases in prices. We've seen that at a much greater scale than even the left is anticipating in a lot of these studies we've seen over the past 4 years, to the point where Trump now is smart for using this as an opportunity to reshape the economic system. They had a great reset. Well, now it's time for ours. Reset of the trade economy, make it American-centric. That's basically what Trump wants to do. He's sick and tired of us getting ripped off, and he wants to do something about it. And whether or not you agree with the solution to it is kind of irrelevant because it shows that a lot of people are very happy that something is being done about the problem. This is something that Donald Trump campaigned on doing, and he is fulfilling his campaign promises, and he really wants to. And you're seeing his approval rating in the process actually go up, and you can look at this here. And it is true that his approval overall is slightly underwater, which is similar to his favorability rating prior to the election, which is relatively typical. But you see all of this policy that's enacted, and the left is acting like it's the end of the world, and Donald Trump's approval rating goes down from 47.5 to 47.5. Yeah, that's not even a decrease. So when you look at that, it's actually it's stabilizing. That's roughly around what we would expect, what we would anticipate during Donald Trump's first term after the first couple of months or so. In fact, his approval rating at 47.5, did he ever have an approval rating that was 47.5 in his first term? The answer is no. And you can see this when the economy was roaring. His approval rating was 44% on a good day in 2019. So you're already seeing the fact that he's more popular. People like him more as a person, but also his job approval as a result, it's going up in the process. He's actually more popular than he ever was in his first term, and he's actually trying to go out there and make sure that he's going to enact his campaign promises by any means necessary. It's true, you can't do it all in one day. It is a process. It is a system. You have to work within a broken system in order to get things done. In some cases, Trump wants to just completely dismantle the system in regards to the economy and then rebuild it in his image around the United States of America when it comes to trade. He doesn't want us getting ripped off. He understands what's, ahead. And Trump wants us to make money on trade instead of losing money and losing jobs to places like China, etc. These nations that take advantage of us, devalue their currency, etc. But regardless, you're looking at the approval rating across the board. It's not falling off a cliff. Many polls show it actually going up. But on top of it, everybody agrees, and this is even CNN that has been saying this, but everybody agrees that Donald Trump is somebody who is wielding his power. He is somebody that is taking an unorthodox approach, and he's somebody that is a relatively effective leader. And this is crucial. And when things improve, which I suspect that they will, in terms of the economy, when deportations start going up, it's going to be something that's going to be viewed favorably. These are things that Republicans and Donald Trump are going to tout ahead of 2026, ahead of 2028, you name it. But I did want to play this clip and kind of analyze what CNN and what Harry Enten from CNN is getting at here, because this shows that he's being viewed as a consequential president, and that's a very good thing for a president to be viewed as. Take a listen.
I think there was this concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. What am I talking about here? Let's talk about Trump executive orders in 2025. He's already signed 111 so far. That is the most at this point in a presidency in at least 100 years. In fact, it's the most in any single year, and we're only in April, since Harry S. Truman in the early 1950s. The bottom line is, whether you like Trump or you don't like him, you can't say that he's come in and not try to deliver on what he at least believes was his promises on the campaign trail, and he's doing so in historic fashion.
So already, out of the gate, 111. So he's getting to work, and he's making sure that he could do whatever he needs to do to go out there and change and reverse bad policy from the previous administration. Now, it is true, executive orders are not entirely binding. The next president, if it's a Democrat, could come in and rescind a Trump executive order, and that is not something that we would want to do. We need as much of Trump's agenda codified into law as possible. You'd have to go through Congress for that, but it does show that he is wielding power whenever he possibly can. He's making sure that he can use his executive to get things done, even more so than last time, by the way, and he's doing it. He's, had a few years to reflect and kind of strategize, and now that he's got in there, he's enacting policy after policy after policy, and you do love to see it. Let's continue.
How are people reacting to and feel about Trump's approach?
Yeah, okay, so Trump's approach here, what are we talking about? Trump's approach to presidential power. I think the American people recognize what he's doing here is completely different. We're talking, get this, 86% of the American public believes that Trump's approach to presidential power is completely different from past presidents, compared to only 14% who believe it is in line with precedent. And we're talking about at least 79% of Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So again, you can agree or you can disagree with Donald Trump, but what you can't disagree with is that he's doing things very differently. I have used the Frank Sinatra quote before. He is doing it, quote unquote, my way, and that is what Donald Trump has done throughout both of his presidential terms, and he's certainly doing that, Kate Baldwin, in term number 2.
So out of the gate, 86% say his approach is completely different. That includes, 70% of Democrats, Republicans, and independents. So across the board, if you see that sort of agreement across party lines, it kind of shows that, yes, he's effective. Whether you agree with him on certain policy or not, he's going out there and he's making sure that he can bring change. And most people do want some sort of change, and Donald Trump is capitalizing on that. So people that are going out there and saying, well, he's going to get less popular because, the economy might not initially react to some of the tariffs positively in terms of the markets, and, Dow might dip a few thousand points here and there, and possibly later on could go up back to normal. We saw Dow dip several times in the Biden administration, by a decent level. I mean, several thousand points. You had a big bear market in 2022, 2023, and then you could even argue that what we saw, a little bit of a rally in 23 or 24, wasn't even technically real, and this kind of is a much needed correction, and the tariffs are kind of being like the fall guy for it. I'm not saying that the markets aren't reacting to the tariffs, because they are, but still, you are kind of seeing that. So regardless, you have a lot of people that are saying, oh, this is over for Trump. Yeah, no. In fact, a lot of people are enjoying his approach, and a lot of working class people have wanted this for a very, very long time. People are saying, oh, they're going to regret it because some products might cost more temporarily. It's like, yeah, but this is something that was a policy that was touted and supported by Democrats back then, these tariffs, and now these are the same people that are going to criticize Donald Trump for supporting them. So either way, you're kind of seeing what's going on here, but let's play the rest of this clip.
So completely differently, clearly they agree, but take it a step further? Do the people think he has too much, he's taken too much power?
Yeah, this I think is the real question, right? You can believe that he's doing stuff completely differently, but do you think that he has a little too much power or not? And this is interesting. So Trump's presidential power is too much, the right amount, too little. Well, 47% say too much, but then you get 36% who say the right amount. Then you get 17% who say too little. So you're essentially dealing with a majority of the American public, 53%, who do not say that Trump has too much power. They either says he has too little power or the right amount of power. So the idea, that argument that Donald Trump is, quote unquote, a king, that I don't think holds with the American people. It does hold maybe with 47%, but with the majority of folk, they believe Donald Trump's doing something completely differently, and they don't believe he has too much power, and the executive orders he signed certainly suggest he's no lame duck. He is, as I said at the beginning, a soaring eagle.
He's a soaring eagle, he says, a red soaring eagle, if you will. But the bottom line is that, yeah, Donald Trump is not really viewed as a dictator by the majority of the population. That's been the narrative that the left has been trying to run with. And honestly, he just needs to go scorched earth because, you have 4 years. You don't have to worry about re-election. Like, that's what we voted for. We voted for somebody to go out there and break the system. That was the initial appeal of Donald Trump. There were a lot of roadblocks in term 1. I know there's going to be roadblocks in term 2. You do have a broken system. You could have a judge on Guam somewhere. Just say, no, I'm gonna make sure that we hold this up, judicial review, you name it. Again, you look at this and it's like you have too little power, if anything. If you're able to be, if people are able to just tie up your agenda in these frivolous, court cases that they'd be filing. It's not like Donald Trump is actually violating the Constitution by doing a lot of what these judges are going to claim that he's like violating the Constitution on, because they just have like this perverted view of the Constitution. A lot of these activist judges on the left, or they'll, pick and choose certain parts of it to weaponize it. But it's not really about that. It's not about principle. It's about tying up Trump's agenda. You saw it a lot in his first term. You're seeing it again in his second term. So he's going to need to use and wield his power. So if anything, I think the too little part, it's not high enough of a percent at this stage in the game. But the fact that 47% of the public is saying he has too much power, despite this narrative that, oh, Trump is this evil dictator, he's going to be authoritarian, whatever. Yeah, 53% say he has the right amount of power or not enough power. And I think in terms of enacting his agenda and getting things done, I arguably think he doesn't have enough. But he is always somebody to find a loophole and get things done by any means necessary. So we'll see what happens on that front. But the bottom line is you have a good jobs report. Many elements of the economy are doing better. They're improving. And this whole trade war, we'll see what happens. I'm rooting for it to win. It's definitely something that is getting some companies to move in, some countries already to come to the table, but it's probably going to be a months-long process at a very minimum. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.